Hello everyone, my name is Esteban Tovar and today I'm going to talk about what neuroeducation is, what memory is and how it works, and some principles of neuroeducation that must be taken into account in an environment between a tutor and an apprentice. To start with, we must clarify what neuroeducation is. Neuroeducation is the discipline that studies the functioning of the brain during the teaching and learning process. It analyzes the development of the brain, the human brain, and its reaction to stimuli, which are later transformed into knowledge. Neuroeducation focuses on improving educational development strategies and teaching processes, establishing a bridge between neurology and all the disciplines that encompass the education. Now that we know this, let's see what memory is and how it works. Memory is a simple mental process that is responsible for the encoding, storage, and retrieval of information. In other words, memory allows us to remember events, ideas, relationships between concepts, sensations, and ultimately all the stimuli that we have experienced at some point. We are talking about a mental process that is key to learning and therefore vital for human adaptation. The ability to learn and remember what has been learned makes us, among other things, able to have a greater social adaptation. Although there are many areas of the brain that are involved in this process of remembering and concepts and sensations, mainly of all these are stored in the hippocampus, an area of the brain located inside the temporal lobe that can be defined as one of the most impressive hard drives that exist. Sensory memory. Its duration is between the first 8 and 10 seconds of each and is given from the information that our senses collect in an environment, and in this way identify what things attract our attention and focus on it. For this reason, in many times while we are in the middle of a conversation or even in the middle of a class and the central theme of this does not attract our attention, although we hear a lot of information, we will not remember it after 2 minutes. Short-term memory. It is in charge of processing sensory stimuli and converting them into information that will be stored for very short periods. For example, when we meet a person and he tells us his name, it is most likely that we will remember this for a period of 1 minute if we do not continue interacting with him, since it is not a stimulus that we constantly repeat. Long-term memory. This type of memory is what allows us to store information for a long period of time. This is detached from short-term memory throughout our lives. For example, the names of the people around us, their faces, a path that we always travel, or our identification number. These stimuli that we use every day are part of our long-term memory. We can establish 3 steps in the functioning of memory. The first one is coding, the second one is storage, And the last one is recovery. Coding. The information perceived by the sensory organs is stored for a short period of time in the sensory memory. This is a very important moment as it is selective and limited in nature. We are surrounded by thousands of stimuli, but we only process and transfer those on which we fix our attention. We have a limited capacity for perception, and that is why only the information that reaches our memory and ends up being considered relevant and are processed. The fact that this information has gone through a processing process implies that it has meaning for us based on the information that we already have stored in our memory. Storage. From sensory memory, information that has been considered relevant enough passes from memory to working memory. Once there, the new information is temporarily stored and combined with the existing information in long-term memory. Recovery. This new information is integrated in a coherent way with that we are already have stored in our memory. When this occurs, comprehension takes place, which makes it easier to retrieve the material that has been stored in memory. Bearing this in mind, next I will talk about some of the principles of neuroeducation that must be taken into account in the teaching and learning process that is taught both at home in other educational environments. First, the brain is social. In the first year of a person's life, in which neurons multiplied at great speed, the brain is in its most receptive and flexible state. That is, it is shaped as we interact with people and the environment. The learning that occurs in the brain is greatly influenced by the nature of social relationships. Second, emotions are vital to creating patterns. Emotions and other mental elements that involve self-esteem, social interaction, expectation, or prejudices influence and organize everything we learned. That is, emotions mold one another and do not separate. All of this leads to an appropriate emotional climate that is vital for learning. Third, we are unique and unrepeatable beings. The brain is the most complex organ in our body. It is in charge of directing all the activity, patterns, and behaviors. The connection of each neuron is the one that provides the greatest plasticity when facing new connections. By last, learning is a developmental process. The brain is plastic. That is, it is adapted to the experience of the person. It has an extraordinary ability to know and experiment, as it is like a blank book, open and ready to receive all kinds of stimuli by virtue of which neural networks are being built. Even so, this unlimited potential capacity that our brain possesses adjust with the knowledge and learning that are acquired in the geographical, sociocultural, emotional context, etc., in which the person meets and develops. Being a process, the human brain is always capable of learning more, since neurons continue to make and reinforce neural connections throughout life. And that's all. Thank you for watching.